Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about the Pixels on Target Voodoo S Mini Thermal Monocular, handheld, helmet mounted, and clip-on mounted thermal. Just kind of diving straight into the specs here. You have a 25mm germanium lens. You have a Class 1 IR lasers, you can see right here. The body is either made of aluminum or a magnesium housing. You have a Wilcox shoe here that works in conjunction with the Wilcox flip to the side mount for a pick rail. Quick detach. Also, if you click this button right here, the mount will flip to the side for using this in tandem with a day optic. Very tight lockup. In my testing here as a clip-on, which we'll get more to, it seems to retain zero. Out to a pretty significant distance further than what the true engagement is, especially the 5.56. Take it off the mount here. You see that lockup's pretty tight. You have your back eyepiece here, an adjustable diopter, and this allows you to adjust for parallax to your eye or to a day scope to where you have a sharp image through on through. Takes a CR123 battery. There is a battery extender here I'm going to be having come in to where you can run this on 16650s, and then a menu option to where you can choose your rechargeable batteries here with one 16650. It'll run for about 4.5 hours. With the CR123, I find it runs about 2.5 hours depending upon conditions. If it's colder, it will only last about 45 minutes here, but I've tested this thing out in negative 30-degree temperatures without really any issues. You have your video out. Comes with either this cable right here. You can hook it up to a rechargeable battery pack, which is how I run it on the helmet. And then you have another cable here that hooks into some sort of interface, probably Trace IR, which essentially is your automatic ballistics calculation that runs in tandem with laser rangefinders like the Wilcox Raptor S. So, and then you have probably the most important spec here. You have a 640 by 480 Pixels on Target in-house made core, which Pixels on Target guys are some of the original guys from the Bay Oasis program here, which Trijicon had acquired in the past couple years. Alright, you have a 640 by 480 black and white display. Even though the pixel density is not very high in that display compared to some of, like, say, the iRay products that run 1280 by 960 HD AMOLED displays, this unit keeps up with them, on top of having a more realistic depth-perceiving image. So, what are some competitors to something like this? What I have in hand right now, if you're talking about the American market, is this puppy. This is the Nox 18. All the specs are pretty much identical besides their use case. This can be either used as a dedicated unit. It's a dedicated wide field of view thermal spotter, or just a rifle mounted unit as well, but just as a dedicated thermal, not as a clip-on. Doesn't have any clip-on capability like this unit does. You have the MH25, which is made by InfiRay, which goes under the term iRay, that is solely imported by UNV or Ultimate Night Vision. And then now, probably the most direct competitor to this in almost every single category is going to be the iRay RH25, which is, or the otherwise known as the iRay Micro. So, what does this unit come with? This unit again comes with your video out cables and your cables to run Trace IR. Really nice tactical multicam pouch. It's MOLLE compatible, I think. Yes. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Your basic field manual, which I can't show you the contents because it's ITAR controlled. It comes with your Wilcox shoe, so your mount for your rifle or any other Picatinny-based rail system. And then a nice little card here, laminated, that gives you some generalized controls to work through the menu and then also get it lined up with a weapon sight. So, getting into the length and the weight of this, we'll start off with the weight. Go ahead and start the scale up. Alright, so this unit, this has one CR123 in, so pretty much how I would run it. Weighs 11.7 ounces. Now, comparing it here to this puppy, Nox 18 with one 18650, which is how I run it in the field. You're coming at 15.2 ounces. So you're almost 4 ounces heavier with this. Then whenever you're using this in tandem, 4 ounces doesn't seem like much. But whenever you're keeping it fulcrumed on a mount, like with this, used as a bridge or by itself, that makes a large difference. Right here, and this is a Gen 3 white phosphor PBS 14 with an L3 tube, and this is put together by Envision Optics. So, what is the allure of a unit like this? This is one of the only units that can truly say that it is a handheld, it is a helmet-mounted unit, and it's a dedicated weapon sight. It does have reticle stadia, you know, your electronically generated reticle stadia, to where you can use this as a dedicated unit. Or, probably the most sought after, is that this is a true clip-on monocular. It is factory collimated, but if your point of impact, point of aim, shift is different whenever you're using this in tandem with a rifle as a clip-on, then you can change this, and it has 3 different save settings here. There's a lot of units that market themselves as, oh, well, yeah, you could just, you know, take this puppy off of your rifle and put it up to your eye and use it as a spotter. A very prominent example of this is going to be this Super Yoder C. So, right now I have this in the clip-on configuration. What they don't tell you is that taking this piece off, as you can see it screws on and off, taking this off of your rifle in pitch black conditions, which is probably what you're using this for some sort of varmint control or just target shooting, taking this off and then adding on your eyepiece, especially for coyote shooting like in my area here. I'm in the northwest where you have a lot of open fields where coyotes come in relatively quick. That couple second lag time between switching this out, making sure you don't lose this, and then for a shot, taking this off, putting this back on, and then mounting it back on the rifle, or in quotes pistol of your choice, is not very user intuitive. There's a lot of things that can go wrong doing that. This is a fantastic optic too, by the way, for the price. But you have 2 pieces here. So this means that you can lead to points of failure. With a unit like this, I can, say if I'm using this as a dual band spotter with this PBS 14, and I see something, and now I want to run it on a rifle. So I can just take this off, clip it in, and then now I have turn my day optic into a thermal device, essentially. So, we went over the specs a little bit, some of the general use case. Now, some of my subjective takes on here. I play with a lot of different thermals. The first unit I ever had was a Trijicon Reap IR. Kind of introduced me to the thermal world about 6 years ago now. Fantastic image, way ahead of the curve for its time. Then I started playing with other units. Played with the UTC 12, a UTM, a Skeet IRX, Halo 25, Halo LR 50, have this Nox 18, an MH25. Haven't played the RH25 as of yet, but I more than likely will. What other units here? The FH25R, which is iRay's thermal rangefinder. I said, and all of these are 640 chord units. However, there's some subjective takes with the image. The smoothness of this image, which you'll see in the video after I blabber on about the specs and everything else with this unit, the image that you receive from this is absolutely fantastic. It's very crisp. You can adjust your sharpness settings, you can adjust contrast, brightness, 4 different color palettes here. You have white hot, black hot, you have white edge detect, and black edge detect. You know, you have so many different points of adjustment for this, on top of being able to manually focus this right here on the objective bell housing, and then also adjusting for parallax for your eye or for your day optic, to where you can just get this absolutely just gorgeous, crystal clear, crisp image with a very far detection range for what this is for. Now, kind of going to the clip-on capability, which I'm sure a lot of people are pretty interested about, this makes a really good jack-of-all-trades unit because of the field of view. Field of view is 15 by 11 degrees. So, with a unit like this, the field of view is large enough to where you can use it as a handheld / helmet-mounted spotter. However, you have enough front-end magnification coming from this 25mm objective, going to the 12-micron core, and then the back-end demagnification of these optics to where you don't fill up your day scope till about 2 times optical magnification. And I find that this unit is usable all the way up to about 8 times optical mag. In a package this size, that is fantastic. There's not many other thermals that can produce these type of results for this use case in a package that's the size of your hand and about 4.5 inches in length. This is a true blue military thermal in all of its glory. So, all the positives here, what are the negatives? For one, this is made by a small company, by Pixels on Target, which are ex-BAE associates. Some of the developers there, after Trijicon bought them out, went to Pixels, or formed Pixels on Target in the private sector. So they're a small operation. They don't put out a lot of these units. You know, these are currently fielded units in SOCOM or other special forces within the U.S. So, since they're not producing a bunch of these, you know, I think their maximum amount is about 90 units per month. I could be wrong on that, but heard from some pretty good sources. It's not very much. So a unit like this is going to cost a lot. So this right here, you can get for a little bit under $5,000. Functions well as a clip-on, decent as a handheld. It's not quick use, you know, going between those two modes, but it's quick enough and good for, you know, your average thermal aficionado / hunter. Then if you're getting a little bit more advanced here, getting more into this game, as you start questioning your life choices and your significant other wants to kick you out of the house because you're spending so much money on these units, and you may go to something like this Nox 18. It's bigger, it's heavier than what the Pixels on Target unit is, but it's almost a third of the price, and still gives you a very nice image with the 12 micron sensor in the 640 by 480 BAE core, which is, you know, a subsidiary of the, or a result of the Bay Oasis line of thermals, which if you're big into thermal, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. Essentially the pinnacle for the past decade of thermal, and still surpasses stuff that is currently making its way on the market coming from essentially the Chinese. So this right here, you know, paired with night vision on a bridge, you have a pretty effective setup for spotting. And then with a IR laser designator or whatever your flavor of rifle optic is, whether dedicated or clip-on, it's where you can pick it up with this unit while being able to navigate with this and then engage with whatever your rifle option is. Now, said this right here is almost 4 ounces heavier. Seems like 4 ounces is not a big difference, but with a unit like this, you know, now you're gaining clip-on capability that this one lacks. Whenever you put this sucker on a bridge, like with this PVS 14, the package is a lot smaller. It's a lot smaller. It's lighter. You're not fulcruming further out away from your face. I wore this setup here from 6 in the afternoon to 3 o'clock in the morning and didn't really find fatigue. Whenever I was running the PVS 14 and the Nox, which is what I was doing previously before I purchased this unit, as soon as I'd get to my spot after walking to it, I would immediately either take off the thermal or I would take off the night vision device. just because it produced a lot of fatigue because of how far it is away from your face on top of the weight. This setup right here, you know, almost 4 ounces lighter, pretty significant. So kind of, you know, skating around the point here. This is a very expensive thermal because of the capabilities, because of the proprietorship associated with this, the amount of units produced a month. You'll pay anywhere between $15,000 and $17,000 for something like this, for a true blue military thermal. Now, your cheaper options there are good for most people. 99.99% of thermal users, which are probably less than 1% of all gun owners. Because, you know, this is a fantastic force multiplier and really extends the capabilities of your daytime platform to operating in all conditions, no matter what they are, and being very effective with it. But there's not too much within this use case of the jack of all trades that comes close to this unit here. You have the RH25, aka the iRay Micro that just came out, but that thing sells for about $6,000. So it sells for right around the price of what the Nox does. While having Nox doesn't have clip-on capability, this unit does. And the RH25 does as well. However, with that unit, there's been some preliminary reviews here saying that with the lower hertz refresh rate, this one's 60 by the way, so it's a pretty real-time image to where you can navigate with this if you so choose, that there's a jello effect with it, to where you'll have some image lag as you're panning left and right, back and forth, up and down. If you're using that as a slowly navigational tool, it's going to cause some issues. On top of that, all those units are upcharged. That may be a $2,800 thermal worth of parts being upsold to $6,000 a piece. So you're not getting $6,000 worth of parts, material, labor, and quality. You know, like this is $15,000 and probably cost them $8,000 to $10,000 to make. And they're making relatively small profit margins because everything was developed in-house in the USA. So this is made with much higher quality components. This is a thermal that will last the test of time. The majority of these Chinese thermals, even like the Super Yoda C, all these things are viewed as more consumable items by our friends at the PLA. Stuff like this is made to withstand the test of time. And if you are familiar with BAE units that have kind of washed onto the market over the past year, some of those units, excuse me, some of those units are over a decade old. Over a decade old, and they are still chugging along. You can't really say too much about almost any civilian thermal on the market right now. You know, minus, say, Trigicon, which has its own issues, and Envision, which has its own issues as well, but you have a warranty to cover that. So altogether, in my opinion, playing with all these other thermals, especially comparing this to a Skeet IRX, this has the best image I've seen in a package this size with the most use case and capability. The image coming from this thing is fantastic. You have, you know, other secondary software programs in here such as Trace IR to really increase your long-range capability. Even though it's not a long-range thermal, you know, it can be used for medium to short distances, mostly CQB distances. I'd say out to about 200-300 yards, you can be relatively effective with this tool here and still make some pretty positive PID. I used this to shoot a prairie dog the other day at 250 yards in pitch black. And I was able to PID it using it in front of a Vortex Gen III Razor 1-10 by 24 LPVO, which these optics bode best with LPVOs or your lower powered fixed optics. Alright guys, so I'm going to quit blabbering here, and then we're going to see what this thing can do. Alright everyone, so you heard me blabber about the technical specifications of the Pixels on Target Voodoo S, so now we're going to do a demonstration here. Go up and power up the unit. Zoom this in a little bit more. Okay, so we'll go reflash or calibrate, aka nuking. And now, this is the type of image quality that you can expect. I'm currently using this in front of a Vortex 1-10 by 24 LPVO mounted on an AR platform rifle. Okay, and this is what it looks like. We're currently at 1 times magnification. We'll zoom in right now. It's about 1.5. Just to kind of give you a little play-by-play of the image quality that this unit puts out. Get the full field of view. As you can see, the image quality is fantastic. Now, when using it as a clip-on, the day optic that you choose also has to do with the image that you're seeing. I'll demonstrate the manual focus here on this telephone pole. Go back down to 1 times, and then slowly zooming in from 1 to 10 times optical magnification. Even at 10 times, it's still quite a fantastic image. Alright, bring it back down to 1, and then about to 1.5. And then we'll focus back out these trees. The image quality of this unit really is just absolutely stunning. We'll focus again on this fence. Your focus is quite close. You can focus in incredibly close. And then back out to the trees. Go ahead, reflash the unit. I've shown some videos kind of out in the country, but a unit like this too really shines in small, more urban areas like I'm currently in right now. We'll get focused on this tree. Side of this barn. Again, the image quality is just stunning. Now we'll focus really close on these branches. Again, this is a 640 by 480 in-house made pixels on target core with a 12 micron BAE sensor and a 640 by 480 OLED display. Focusing on this tree, then we'll start the zoom starting from 1 going till 10. It's a little bit blurry because I don't have the parallax adjusted. You can kind of get the point of how impressive this unit is. It reminds me more of a light phosphor PVS-14 actually. We'll zoom in on this building over here. Probably about 80 yards away. And we will adjust the parallax slightly. Crisp image through and through. And back to about 1.5 times. Alright, we'll go through the color palettes here, looking at these trees. So we're on black hot. You have black edge detect, white edge detect, and white hot, which is what most people are used to seeing whenever they look at thermal footage. Again, this video is being taken through the day optic. Focus in close again on this fence. See the nails, and then back out to the trees. We'll do a pan over and white hot. I'll get a little bit closer so you can see these buildings. All right, we're back again. We're going to be looking at this grain silo that is roughly, from this position, 275 yards away. All right, we'll start from 0, from 1 times optical magnification, and white hot. And we're going to zoom in to this point from 1 to 10. Just the parallax. So even for such a tiny unit, it does a really, really fantastic job. This is on 10 times optical magnification in a device that's the size of your hand. Back it out. Zoom into this one part of the building that's probably 80 yards away from me. All the way into 10 times. And back out. Switching from white hot to black hot. To this tree, you can still see all the bark. We're 10 times right there. And I can adjust in the deeper menu here. Bring your brightness up to 3 here, not 4. Make it slightly more vibrant. And then increase the contrast by a factorial of 1. Anytime I adjust the display settings, I'll go ahead and just recalibrate the unit. Alright, again here, starting from 1. Going all the way till 10. Go to this transformer. Just how much detail is retained, even at 10 times magnification at over 200 yards away. It's truly, truly impressive. And then back up here, you can still easily read this 14 here. We'll do a once over pan again, black hot, just different position. Zoom in a little bit. See these trees right here, this little tree. It's very close. But even though it's close, you can still focus in just to where it's ultra crisp and clean. These branches back out to the shed. Trees, and again we're at about 1.5 times optical mag. Zoom into the tree. Still see the bark, even at 10 times, which is what I'm at right now. Metal part of this fence. And back out to these trees. There's a little well. Zoom in. I played with a lot of thermals. Been very fortunate to do so. With the size, the weight, and the capability, this is amongst the best. It's just an image that I do not grow weary of. transformer up here. Zoom into it. Alright guys, hope you've enjoyed this little demonstration of the image portion of this video. Until next time. And look out into the distance. So the mountains you see out there, right now we're at 1 times optical magnification. The mountains you see out there are roughly 5 to 6 miles away. So let's just go ahead and increase that magnification to about 1.75 times here. This is about 1.75. This barn is roughly 450 yards away from my position. There's typically horses out there, but there's not today. Some transformers out here. You have a hidden old fire truck. Out here, looks like you have a vehicle. That thing is probably bordering on a mile away, driving away right now. Alright, so current gain setting is setting 2. So this is no gain, 10 times gain. And gain is your contrast. This video, we'll keep it at about 2, which is how I run this on any given day. Alright, we'll just go to about 1.5 times and we'll just do a little pan around. And those mountains are 5 to 6 miles away. You can still see snow up there. Fence. We'll go ahead and focus in this puppy right here, this big bundle of hay, and then back out. Try to adjust this. This house is roughly 250 yards away from my current position. Go ahead and zoom in on that 10 times. It's quite blocky. I'd say this thing sits home perfectly. About 1.5 times. On 1 to 6, 1 to 8, and then 1 to 10 LPVOs. These deer out here. Silhouetted deer. These are roughly 150 yards away. Bring it back out. See nothing on this hilltop. There's some rocks, inanimate objects. Zoom in on this fence. Back out. Some deer out in this field. Try to focus in on them. Some cars traveling in the background. I'll zoom in on these deer. From 1 power to 10. You can still somewhat PID those deer about 150 yards away. See the detail on this tree. Have a steel shop back here. My truck. I'll go ahead and focus in on this puppy. There we go. See the detail on these tires. Back out. Some deer out here. I'm laying down. try to make this video bigger as opposed to all the other ones I did. I kind of zoomed in. It does degrade the image here. It's focusing more on the pixelation that you're not seeing with your eye. But now you can actually see the contents as it's supposed to be seen from an image perspective. Oh, I got a horse out here. Okay, so now we're going to switch white hot. For those of us that enjoy white hot, panning around again. White hot's not my favorite, as I stated before, but it serves its purpose. Deer really pop out. You can see easily that they are laying down. Back out. Go ahead and reflash this. Tree again. Focus in on this puppy. There we go. Back out to this building. Back to my truck. Your tire. I got another deer out there now. I got 3 of them. And zooming in, guys, you can still PID what that is. The relative ease on something that's 200 plus yards away. Not the prettiest image, but it's effective whenever you zoom in for how small this piece of kit is. Horses, and your mountains in the background. Okay, so also with this, I did not mention previously, you have digital magnification. So we'll go to about 1.5 times here. Switch this back to black hot. Okay. And then we'll just kind of use this house as our thermal model. Doing digital magnification rounds. Okay, so we're at 1 times native. 2 times digital, 4 times digital. Back out. And these metal silhouetted deer, 1 times, 2 times, 4 times. Now, you can shoot with this, however, it's going to greatly affect your point of impact, point of aim. As it zooms into the core, where your thermal is zeroed on, it's no longer that cluster of pixels, which I can kind of demonstrate this here. So we'll go to the Smith's pose, and you'll see how it looks like the crosshairs are moving. We'll start off here at this point. See, now I'm slightly down compared to where I was, as opposed to looking at the very tip. Zoom in on these deer. 2 times, 4 times. But it does greatly enhance its PID capability on not having to touch your datascope. All right. Zoom this out just a little bit. There we go. This mailbox. Back out to infinity. Again, as I've harped on, the image coming from this thing is quite fantastic. Zoom in. More pan. You can see metal with things that are BAE or BAES cores like this one are very, very metallic looking. Got up and walked off. And then White Hunt. Quick panning. I typically run my brightness a little bit lower and the contrast low as well. Today was a good thermal day. Got a couple deer out here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at varying distances. And then back to the steel factory, which is quite far away from here. The edge of that building is probably about 6 times magnification right there. And the building's 700 yards away. Well, got another deer that's poking through here. Right here. One laying down, this other one's disappeared. You can kind of see one. Oh, he just went behind that barn. And then black eye. Okay. Hope you guys have enjoyed it.